Hey everybody, what's up? I've got a new build that I want to showcase today. It's a soul level 36 plus 4 build, but I think in order to do it justice, I want to kind of contrast it with my current build. This is the build I've been using at soul level 36 really for months and months now. This guy that you're looking at right now is pretty much just a straight up vigor gouge. Nearly all upgrades are into vigor, with a smattering of upgrades placed into strength and dex, just to hit some bare minimum weapon requirements. All of his weapons are raw infused, and he's been a really good build for me. The vigor ensures survivability. He can just take hits after hits after hits. I mean, you can see here I'm just getting wailed on, and I'm still able to get through it all. And then a single Estus nearly heals me to full. But the damage output leaves a bit to be desired. The straight sword R1s typically do somewhere between 90 and 110 points of damage, depending on my opposition and their armor, etc. And here I see it turns into a 3v1. So now I got to get out of here. And because it's turned into a 3v1, now I'm going to switch over to the mace. And actually, I made a change here. Instead of the mace, I've got the spiked mace because I can put bleed on it, and it synergizes really, really well with the environment here. Because the maggots cause bleed buildup. A lot of people don't have red moss. They typically rely on torches to get rid of the maggots. This is a really great option at this level, and plus now I've got a bit of hyper armor to deal with multiple enemies. You can see there too me stripping off the buff of the Phantom, get I think like magic weapon cast, and I've just been a lot more aggressive about trying to strip buffs, because especially at this soul level, a single buff like that can easily result in double the damage. So it's well worth trying to take the time to strip those, especially from a fast weapon like a straight sword. But talking about the build again, bare minimum on strength and dex, except for hitting the requirements of the weapons I'm utilizing. And there I take a chance and blow all my stamina, and able to finish that guy off with bleed. But it's almost all vigor. I think with Prisoner's Chain, he's got like 41 vig. So I realized I've been watching some other people play, and this Phantom here is really good. We'll see more of that here in a bit. I've seen other people play with a lot less vigor, and I think there were some worthwhile trade-offs to make. And actually, I'd like to thank an anonymous contributor for helping me with the new build, which we'll look at here in just a moment. This white Phantom was remarkably careful about his swinging. When he was chasing me down, he had his shield up to prevent me from turning and burning him, but the host is not being as careful, and I can imagine the Phantom feeling a lot of frustration because the host is just doing things like swinging 3 times with an axe, just an invitation to get parried. But this new build that I've got does a lot more damage with the straight swords, and we'll look at him in more detail, but that was really the primary motivation for me to make the build. I realized all those extra points of vigor could be better used elsewhere. I try a couple different parries on this guy. He doesn't bite on either one of them, so I give him some applause for being smarter than the host. These guys are actually fun. I had a lot of fun in this invasion. So you can see here now I'm out of Estus. The host appears to be out of Estus. And this buff is a bad thing because now with 2 R1s he could easily kill me. So I guess where he's going to roll, I guess correctly. And that's a new skill I've developed as well. I'm being more aggressive about using Undead Hunter charms and dual charms. But this guy makes a mistake. He tries to rebuff too closely to me. And as he dies, he gets to see me finish off the host. Too good. So now coming up, I want to show you the actual build. So that was the only clip with the old build. This is my new build. And this guy is a soul level 36 dark build. And you can see I actually spent some time working on his face. I typically don't spend a lot of time in the tools trying to make my characters look pretty, but I spent a bit of time with this guy. I had actually created him once got like 8 hours in and had a power outage, which corrupted my save file, and I lost all that progress, so I had to create him a second time. You can see he's got the Chaos Dagger +4. We'll talk a bit about that. He's got a Dark Longsword +4. The Cestus, in case I want to try to do the Perseverance backstabs. And then obviously I've got the Parry Shield, the Crossbow, and I've got the Filianor Chime, which is great for casting regen, both in Bountiful Light and then for the weapon art as well. And then the rings there, you can see I took people's suggestion. I moved the rings that I hard swap all the way over to the left to minimize the number of button presses. And another change I've made is that whenever I swap my weapons, I'm now hard swapping them instead of keeping them on my person, which lets me increase my armor protection just a bit. And so I've actually been practicing the swaps, which for people that have been doing this for a long time, probably no big deal. But for me, it was somewhat of a big deal because I've never done this before. And you can see there, I've just got the quick little sequence there worked out, so I can swap very quickly in the middle of a fight if I want to. Here you can see the stats. The one thing to note here, the reduced vigor, I had to give up some vigor, and then the faith and int are not evenly distributed. I played around quite a bit with this in Souls Planner or Muujin Monkey, and what I found was that having them lopsided like this gave me a bit more AR, an extra 15 or so, but it has a nice side effect that if I want to cast miracles, I've got most of the points in faith. This is a pyro build, so the int is actually at its minimum. So I've got Great Heal and Bountiful Light. I don't use Great Heal very often. Typically before I head into combat, I'll cast Bountiful Light, and then I'll cast the weapon art on the Filianor Chime. And for those who don't know, the nice thing about the Chime is that you don't have to keep it in your offhand for the regen effect to work. That's the case for all the other Chimes, but not for Filianor, which makes it the best. So we'll see some duels here, or not some duels, some invasions rather with this build. And the one really great thing about this is the amount of damage that I do. On my previous build I mentioned I was doing typically between 90 and 110 points of damage per longsword R1. This guy's doing more on the order of 130 to 160. And it chips through shields so well. People that try to turtle shield behind, or people that try to turtle behind a shield are in for a big surprise. Another change actually that I've made, and I'm going to talk more about this in another video, is I've started using the Knight's Ring. And the Knight's Ring is one of those rings I don't see people talk about very often. I saw Skitter mention it once in his video with Stray Curtis, and it really opened my eyes to how much more powerful that ring was than I originally thought. We won't see much of that today. In fact, I don't think we'll see it at all, but in an upcoming clip that I've got planned, we'll see a lot more of it. Unfortunately, as I'm doing this commentary, the video is too small, so I can't accurately see how much actual damage I'm doing to these guys with each swing. So my recollection was like 130 to 160, but I can't see the exact amount as I'm talking about this. I really love invading in the Cathedral of the Deep, and this section right here is far and away my favorite. This area down here, the guys with the crossbows, a bit further in, you have the thralls, you have the guy with the halberd. There's actually two halberd guys. It's awesome. That arrow there just saved that guy from a parry. Some people, I think, get ingrained in them, don't swing more than twice, but with like those axes and I think maybe like the katanas, the R1s are slow enough that you can actually set up parry the second R1 with a small shield. So this build is really, really powerful. It's much more powerful than the build that I was using previously. And I don't show any of it because it's boring. But in those cases where I invade a lone host, I typically will constrain myself to like 1 or 2 Estus. I won't use the crossbow. I won't use any of the regen. I won't use the dagger. I'll still usually keep the Hornet Ring on, but I'll usually just get riposte with the longsword. I've only been invading with this build a couple days, so we'll have to see how well it works in the long run. But so far, what I'm seeing is really rewarding, and it makes me wonder if my builds that are at like soul level 45 and 50, if maybe I should give some thought to reworking those. So I'll probably spend some time in like Souls Planner and figure out what I'm going to do with those guys. Obviously, these guys are shooting great bow shots down here, which is smart. I've got the obscuring ring on, but I'm a little worried about taking an arrow, even if by accident, or they happen to see where the throwing bombs are coming from. So here I get the parry and the riposte, but I'm not accustomed to switching to a dagger. That's not normally something I do, but for this guy, I remember. And I'm able to get a riposte there of like 650 points of damage, which is crazy. I'm not sure what he's doing over here. He ran over here by these thralls, and these thralls don't even activate until you run over here. If he had just kind of left them be, although I don't know, maybe they actually do come down when you head over further into the level, so I could be wrong about that. So obviously, or maybe not obviously, some of you may already know that the Sherriff Factory, the software on the PS4 that lets you make videos, just recently got a big update. You can see the little comic book transition there. There's a number of other updates too I need to play with. I really haven't had a chance to get in there and really screw around with them. But this guy seems to want to have an honor duel. I see the blue come in, and then he sends the blue home, which was rather unexpected. So I decide I'll go ahead and have a straight up duel with this guy. No, not all that interesting, kind of laggy. And here I almost kill him. And then, as what very often happens, there he heals. There's the hidden sun, bro. So he was fine and willing to have a duel with me because he assumed he was going to win. But then once it became apparent that he wasn't going to win, now he's going to go and try and hunt me down. And that's fine. That's pretty much my expectation in those kinds of things. And in fairness, there's no obligation on his part to engage me in a duel or anything. So I end up cutting out a lot of this video. There was a ton of back and forth out here kind of on the staircase, and it was weird because he kept Way of Blue on, but when the blues would show up, he would send them home. And I expect that the reason he's doing that is because he wants the satisfaction of killing me himself. Obviously, there's no way to be sure about that. So here he gets a bit aggressive with the chase down in the buffered running attacks with the katana. And the problem is, after you go for the second one buffered, I know for a fact you're going to go for the third, especially since you landed the previous two. This invasion was like 15 minutes long. We're at probably minute 14 at this point, and obviously I've trimmed a huge amount of it out just because it would have been pretty boring to watch. And he disconnects, which was about the most rewarding way that this possibly could have ended. So this invasion here, this is also my dark build, but this was before I'd kind of completed it. The stats weren't as well optimized, and you can see I have some different fashion. I had been looking for this host at this point already for about 7 minutes. I think he was hiding from me, and now we've got a couple blues here, so I got to kind of skedaddle. In fact, this group turned out to be a really nasty gank squad that I invaded a number of times. And unfortunately, I wish I'd had more success than I did. I invaded them probably 6 times and won, I think, only twice. And, you know, obviously some of it is because of my skill level, but it's also dependent on the skill level of my fellow invaders. And unfortunately, there are just too many invaders who would invade, and they would just go right into the meat grinder, 3v1, 4v1, inside the cathedral, no PvE, no way to get away. They would get killed, give up their Estus, and it was just really, really frustrating. But this was actually my first invasion. Beg your pardon, this is my second invasion against this crew. I don't realize at this point, though. I don't realize that it's that same gang squad. I see this guy's one-handing that weapon, so I figured to go for a setup parry. And I thought I'd whiffed it there, but fortunately there was enough lag that I was still able to get it. And here, this R1, I would not normally do, but I know there's other people around, and I'm trying to get rid of this guy as quickly as possible, and he's lagging really badly, so the quicker I can get rid of him, the better. I've mentioned it before, I have a lot more trouble with ultra great swords and invasions just because there's time pressure. When somebody's got wave blue on, I know the faster I can get rid of those blues and get the host before the next wave of blue shows up, which I actually don't know how much time that takes. It feels like it happens after like 30 seconds, but I think it's probably more on the order of like 5 minutes or so until the next wave gets resummoned. So here, when I see the Havel Great Shield, at this point I realize it's the same squad. And this guy's obviously just trying to kind of be an asshole. And he thinks I'm just going to sit here and wail into his shield pointlessly. And you can see the dark is chipping through it enough to make him probably notice if he were paying attention. And unfortunately, I get the guard break here. But when I went for the riposte, I wasn't close enough, so I ended up just swinging instead. And the host here wasn't very good. He basically just would hang back from the fray and just resummon. So at this point he decides to get involved, but it's too late. So here he is looking around for his summon signs. It looked like he was standing on one, so I'm not exactly sure what happened, why he wasn't able to get the summon off. So I'm cutting ahead quite a bit in this invasion. I'd actually spent about 5 or 6 minutes at this point already looking for the host, and he must have had some really good hiding place, because I was not able to find him at all. But then when the blues would show up, then he would typically come out of whatever hiding spot he was in and come join the fray. And then if the blues died, he would go and hide again. So at this point, I still haven't seen the host, so I'm going to try and get rid of these blues before the host shows up. And here they kind of put me into the meat grinder a little bit. And I get stuck. It was always kind of scary. A frostbite, also scary. And then a third blue shows up I wasn't even aware of. And I was actually talking to Pinko about this in the Discord earlier. I'm not sure under what circumstances a third blue shows up, and I don't think Pinko really knew either. I hadn't seen this happen very often, but now I've got 3 blues chasing me. And of course, because there's 3 of them, they have all the confidence in the world. And so I'm going to take them here to my favorite PvE spot. I've actually taken a page out of the Saint Riot playbook, and I have started being more willing to spam R1. If I think the probability of getting parried is low, I will just start swinging, especially because a lot of guys are conditioned by invaders that invaders will only swing twice, and so as soon as you swing that second time, they start counter swinging on you. And obviously that can be a parry opportunity, but I find that if I just start spamming, a lot of times they'll just stand there and take it. So now that I've killed 3 blues, now I have to go and try and hunt down the host before any more blues can show up. And here I cut out quite a bit of time, probably a good 6 or 7 minutes of me hunting him down. And in the interim, another blue showed up. So now I've got the host and a blue and potentially other phantoms. I'm not really sure what I'm up against. And you can see the blue here has got the maggots. And the way I found him actually was that the maggots kept bleeding him out. And this is probably like the 4th time they've bled him out already. So he must not have any moss or a torch or anything. So he's probably gone through like 3 Estus just because of that. And here you can see my kind of setup here. the Bountiful Light and the Filior Chime weapon art. Damn it, another 2 blues show up. So I've got another 3 blues and the host to contend with. You see some nice chip there through his shield. I was kind of hoping to get a guard break or something that I could use to finish him off before I had to deal with all these blues. And so now it's off to the races yet again. I should probably give some thought to actually running off to the right here rather than constantly running through these enemies. I mean, they definitely hold up the phantoms and the host, but they also hold me up too. So with 4 of them on my ass, there's just no way in hell I'm going to sit here and try and fight them out here. Coming up the staircase there a moment ago, I was able to get some shots in on the blues because they were forced to kind of come up single file. But as the map opened up, they could have flanked me very easily. But here again, because they're coming in one by one, I'll take my chances and get a few more shots in. But now again, as it opens up, I need to get out of here. And I'm going to take them back to the exact same location I brought the last 3 blues. There's still enough enemies here to make it worthwhile. And you see there's some more of the spamming. And there, going for that parry was kind of chancy, and it almost cost me the fight. Again, good chip through that shield. That is a most welcome change, man. I mean, having only physical damage used to be a huge problem against people with shields and used to frustrate me. And I don't know if you could hear it, but off camera there, the blue just died to the PvE. And so now I'm heading off after the host. And I see he makes this jump here, so I've got to go after him. And I almost biffed it. I almost fell through. And man, I would have been so angry if I had done that. But the host is in full-on panic mode here. And I don't even bother switching over to Silver Cat because I've got so much Estus. That's it for me, guys. Thanks for checking in. Take care now.